What's going on, everybody? Nick here, and in this video I'm going to show you how to build an extraordinarily simple client onboarding system using Trello, email, and Google Sheets. If that sounds like something you guys want to learn, stay tuned and let's get into it. Alright, so first things first, this video was requested by the lovely Matthew Larson. Guy is a freaking killer. He's a good friend of mine. He actually lives out here in Calgary, Alberta, at least right now. He essentially runs a big agency training program, and a lot of that agency training program centers around Trello. So they use Trello to track progress over time. They do Trello for internal tasks. They essentially use Trello for the vast majority of their project management. And he just asked me, hey man, can you make an automation that essentially, when a payment comes in, we create a new Trello board to represent a client and maybe do a couple of things associated with that. And that's reasonably straightforward. I've also had a few other people ask me for Trello for my community. And so I figured, with this confluence of events, screw it, I'll make a video on Trello, even though I don't really use it super often. Now, what is Trello? If you guys aren't familiar, essentially this is a project management platform that's similar to a lot of the other project management platforms. The only difference is instead of it being like a table or a list, it's what's called a Kanban board. These guys definitely popularized the Kanban board layout. And a Kanban board is essentially these cards. And inside of each of these cards, there are a few other cards. Lists, I think. Inside of each list is a few cards. And then you move these tasks essentially from left to right to represent their progress through the queue. Trello is pretty flexible. They do this one thing, and they do this one thing extraordinarily well. But it's pretty flexible with how you design these Kanban lists. You can change the status names. You can do a lot there. But essentially, it's just like a simple version of a project management system that a lot of people prefer. Strips away a lot of the BS associated with project management. And for a lot of people, it's like the 80-20. They've also recently provided some other views, so you don't just need to use board. You can use table, calendar, timeline, dashboard, and map. Although, again, this is what they do really well. They just do the left to right sort of Kanban board layout thing. Now, the reason why this is so important is because, if you're using Kanban boards and you want to represent some type of like new client project, it'd be very inefficient to represent every new client as like a card inside of each board. It'd probably be much more efficient to represent a client as a whole board itself. So, this main board might not be called main board, might be called like left click. This other example board might be called 1 second copy. And inside of each of these client boards, then you have a bunch of tasks for that client, like a to-do list, then stuff that is currently in progress, and then stuff maybe that's done. You can also add lists and that sort of thing, so other statuses if you want. But essentially it's just like a straightforward, I'm just gonna use the stem, and then you guys can customize this however you want. Onboarding is extraordinarily important if you want to grow a successful business, because the second that a client pays you, you need to minimize their buyer's remorse, essentially, to improve the longevity of the contract, and also just to like give them a great experience. Nobody likes parting with money, so the second that they do, just make sure that you give them something positive. And in this case, the onboarding is going to be us creating a Trello board, us sending them a quick little email about it, and then us getting them set up in the system. So yeah, nice and straightforward. This is what the flow is going to look like. I'm going to create a fake payment event. This fake payment event is just going to be a basic trigger. Just going to more or less just be payment event. We'll do payment status. This will be true. This will be, email address. And maybe we'll also do like an amount. This is USD. This basic trigger just fills in the spot that you would use, let's say like a Stripe module to watch your payment, maybe like PandaDoc to make sure that a contract or invoice has been filled out. This is just going to be a placeholder that we're going to use, because anytime that you're screwing around with payment automations and that sort of thing, unfortunately a lot of these platforms don't have like a test feature, and I just don't want to muck around with that. So I'm just going to pretend that this is a payment completed, and we're going to say payment completed, create Trello board, and send email. Okay, so what do you do in order to actually go out there and then make a Trello board? Well, we are just going to type in Trello, and there are a bunch of modules here that are quite useful. You can watch boards, so you could have another automation that's dependent on this automation, for instance, and when you create a new board, you could do something else with that flow. You can edit a board, you can get a board, search, assign team members to boards. You can do a fair amount with this. I'm not going to go through every single one of these endpoints, but rest assured that Trello, and I think they're owned by a bigger company called Atlassian or something like that, are like very, very good with their integrations and automations. This is something that's quite common. So we're going to go create a board here. And I just need to select the correct account. The integration is super simple, it takes like half a second. What I'm going to do here, actually, I'm going to add one more variable. I'm going to pretend I have like the client name. For the purposes of this, we'll call it left click, and then let's say company name. We'll say first name, and then we'll also do a last name. Did I put an email in here? Yeah, okay. Great, so that should be all the information we need. Because I haven't put this in, I just need to cancel this out and then reselect this. It's going to enable me to grab the previous modules. And then I'm just gonna call this company name board, and the description is going to be left blank. Now, in contrast to a lot of the other modules that you can use in make.com, the Trello board I find is like extraordinarily simple above the fold, but then when you click show advanced settings, it is super complicated. There are like a million different rules here. Self-join, default labels, default list, board source ID, card covers, background. You can change the background color if you want. Let's just set everything to sky. Card aging, they have pirate mode versus regular mode. I'm not going to go into detail about each of these things. Suffice to say, you can check out Trello's documentation on the various settings that you can enable or disable for boards. But there are a couple of things that we are going to do. We're going to do self-join. We're going to put that at, leave that as a yes. I'm going to say members and administrators can make invitations. I'm going to say anybody can make a comment. Anybody can vote. The permission level of this board is going to be, for the purposes of this, we're going to leave it as public. That doesn't necessarily, this isn't like we're listing this on the stock exchange. It just means that you need the link in order to access the board. So if you don't have the link, you're not going to be able to access the board at all. And then we're not going to mess around with any of these others. There's one more that might be valuable called board source ID. You can essentially create like a board template, and you can just copy that board over just by hard coding the ID right in here. So this is pretty useful if, like, say you wanted to create a structure that's different from this main board structure. If instead of to do, doing, and done, you wanted, let's say, 5 statuses. A guy called Brett at DesignJoy does this. DesignJoy Trello. Let me see if I could see a photo here. Yeah. So Brett, I think the guy does like well over $1 million in profit a year, just as a solo entrepreneur. This is what his board looks like. There's a start here, which includes like an introduction. There's a how to use this board. There's a find your design files, branding, manager, subscription. He's essentially like doing design as a service. And he has a bunch of templated onboarding docs that he includes in every Trello board to just make it really simple and easy for people to manage. So you could do this super easily if you wanted to take the time to set up your own onboarding board where you have instructions. Hey, here's what you do first, here's what you do second, here's what you do third. All you would have to do is copy the ID of that board, which you find right after the \B. And then, yeah, you'd be able to just plug that into this module and then automatically create said board. But for the purpose of this, the first thing we want to do is just test whether or not this works, right? So I have the payment completed over here. We're going to create the board. It's saying that it was successful. If I go back to example board here and then I just go boards, maybe do a quick little refresh, we will see, oh, weird, we don't actually have a board. Odd. I might have created this in the wrong account. Yeah, I created this in the wrong account. My bad. Let's go back here, run this again. Okay. So I give this thing a quick little refresh. We now have a left click board, which is a board for the specific client. And then maybe on this board, we will always create a few tasks, and we have like onboarding tasks. Those tasks are, our team needs to invite the client or something to like a password manager. Then we need to send them a welcome email. Well, no, we're going to automate the welcome email, so we don't actually need that to be a task. Maybe, I don't know, we will update their payment information, or maybe we will create, I know what we'll do. We will assume that, this is an automation agency that we're building. After the client pays us, we get their information, and then we basically like buy them a little bit of swag or something, like a welcome gift. Thank you for, jumping on my retainer. We have 2 simple onboarding tasks, extraordinarily straightforward. That's my new favorite word today. The way that you do that here is you would create a card. Now, the thing about Trello is Trello uses, as I mentioned, these lists, but these lists each have different IDs. So if you wanted to create a card, you would need to enter a list ID. We can't exactly hard code this, right? So we have to actually go out there and select the list ID, which is going to be to do. Then we have to add the name, the description, maybe a file, and that sort of thing. So this is sort of annoying to do, right? Because the ID of every card's list, or every board's list is going to be different. So in order to do that, we have to actually get lists. And so we need to pull the ID of the specific list that we are going to be creating the card in. The way that we do this is we map the board ID. We feed in the board ID from the created board earlier. I'm going to do all lists. Maximum number is going to be 3. And then I'm actually just going to hard code this in for now. That way I don't have to create another board. So give me 1 second to test this. We're going to see that this returns 3, this returns a to do, this returns a doing, and this returns a done. And now that I'm thinking about it, it's always going to return the earliest list before the later lists. And if we're going to be adding just some onboarding tasks in to do, pretty straightforward. I'm just going to get the 1, and then I'm going to feed in the 1 to the create a card. So then we go to Trello, and I'm just going to type in card here, and then it's going to be create a card. And then all we need to do is just feed in the list ID from the previous entry, because the 1 list ID that it returns is always going to be to do for us. Now the first thing we're going to do is, I already forgot my onboarding task from earlier. That's really funny. What are we going to do? We are going to send them a swag box. There are tons of these services out there, like this one called swag.com, swagbox, send curated swag boxes at swagmagic.com. Essentially the way that it works is it's usually like your company branded on a bunch of items or materials. And so, you can send your clients a nice cup with your logo on it, or maybe some socks, or I don't know, like a t-shirt. This sort of thing is extremely popular recently. People really seem to like it. And, I think that this makes a massive difference when you send something physically to a client. If they're paying you, $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 a month, very small little investment to make to probably increase your consolidation and decrease churn like another few %. So look at this, US fulfillment from $20 a recipient, global fulfillment is $100 per recipient. Super, super cheap. If you think about the margin on one of these things, it's fantastic. So I'm just going to say send them a swag box. Then the description of this will be log into swag.com. Enter the client information and ship their swag box. Let's pretend there are different types and we're doing type A. There's no files here, so we're not going to be uploading a file. If you go to show advanced settings, you can change the position of the card that you're creating. So we want this one to be up at the top. And then you can also set a due date for the card. And just like any project management system, we're probably going to do a pretty quick due date. We'll just say add days now and then 2. This will be due in 4 to 8 hours from now. There's going to be no file URL. And then you can also do this similarly to creating a board where you copy a card template somewhere else in Trello. And to do that, you could either feed in a manual card ID that you have, just a specific card and a specific board, and have it pull from it all the time, hard code it, or I guess you could either add the ID or you could just select it manually here. So either one is fine. We're not going to be doing that here because we're just creating the card from scratch. And then we need some other activity for this. So I'm just going to copy this and create another card. This one's not going to be at the top. So this is going to be at the bottom. I'm pretending that there's just 2. Instead of send them a swag box, what are we going to do here? Instead of send them a swag box, maybe we will record a video introduction. That sounds nice. Salesperson to record a brief 3-minute video introduction. Let's do like a customized 3-minute video introduction to welcome them aboard and improve consolidation, reduce churn. Maybe they do this in like a Loom video or something, very straightforward. And you can also specify a specific member to assign this to. I'm just going to leave this as blank for now. And we'll say that that is hypothetically due in 3 days, just to have a couple of differences here. Okay, so what do we have? We have the payment completed, then we create a board, we get the lists of the board here. I'm going to feed in the ID here, just fixing this. I had it hard-coded because I was testing. That's going to get the ID of the to-do list. We're then going to create 2 things inside of the to-do list. I'm just doing this as a straight flow from left to right, But something that a lot of people will do is they'll break this flow up, where if you're just doing the same thing over and over and over again, you will essentially have a router somewhere where this occurs off of the main branch, so you can keep your main branch pretty clean logic-wise. Another design pattern I've seen is where you will store this data inside of the set multiple variables module instead, and then you'll iterate over whatever is in like an array, let's say, and then you'll just have one create a card module instead of two. Two sort of like a weird number though, where, you know, if you were to try and do any of this, it would end up, you'd end up with more modules than if you just did one, you know, just laid them out like this. So I personally am just going to leave it like this, even though I personally think doing two things in a row that are the exact same is sort of lame. And then, yeah, let's test out the Trello flow and see what happens. So we're pretending the payment was completed. The millisecond the payment's completed, we've already created a board for them. We've gotten the board list. We've gotten the ID of the to-do. Then we've created a card. The card is in the to-do at the top. The card's called send them a swag box, and it's log into swag.com, enter the client information, and ship their swag box. And then we also have a record a video introduction task. Now I have two left click boards, so I'm just going to close the one that I'm currently accessing so I can access the new one. And then you see that we now have two items here essentially, which is pretty cool. You'll notice that I set this board to public, so it's giving us a quick little note. The reason why I set this board to public is I just wanted to show you guys that you guys could actually just share a board with a link. And then if you paste in, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. If we go back here, we copy this link, paste in Trello, then you can actually invite a client to a board if you wanted to work with them collaboratively, like what you were doing in DesignJoy. So if you were to do that, obviously it wouldn't be tasks like send them a swag box. It might be tasks like, you know, hey, welcome to this board. We're really excited to have you. Thanks so much for doing blah, 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 blah. You know, you might actually be able to still do this. I've seen a couple of companies, I've worked with a few agencies at this point, where they will do their project management on some type of project management software platform like Trello, and then they'll actually just invite the client so the client can at least see what's going on. This is great if you have strong project management and if people are actually using the platform the way it's supposed to. So maybe we actually can, yeah, maybe that's sort of like our pitch here. We're like a very transparent agency that does this sort of thing, and we actually allow you to see our project management so you know where things are in the pipeline. That might be pretty cool. What we'll do then is we'll create an email. So I'm going to do send an email. I'm going to pretend that we're sending this from, boy, I have a lot of emails here. That is not right. Okay, I'm just going to pretend I'm sending this from here. The email address we have from the payment information, so we'll stick this here. We'll say welcome aboard. Now we're going to put their first name in. Then I'm going to say, hey, first name, BR. This just allows me to add 2 spaces through HTML. You don't have to do HTML, you could do plain text if you want, but then you can't add links and that sort of thing. So we're going to do hey BR. Just wanted to extend a warm welcome. I don't know, you can have like a templated thing. You know, if the salesperson in your team is always going to be the same salesperson, or if you get that information when the payment is completed, you could say something like, you know, Peter ran me through, you know, your company, let's say company name. I'm excited to build together. That looks nice. Below, you'll find a link to our project management board. Unlike other companies, we actually show you exactly how far along we are in every project that we do for you. Clients love this level of transparency, and anecdotally, I find it leads to healthier communication and expectations. That's nice. Geez, I'm giving myself a new business idea here. It'd be pretty neat. We're just going to paste in the Trello link. So let's see here. Where is this link? Okay, URL right here. Let's go href. Oh, I can't do that, so I have to paste this in. And then we will add a short URL over here, just so that they could see it if they need to copy and paste, or if their email platform, for whatever reason, strips URLs. Looking forward. Kicking this off for you. Let's do BR. Then we'll just do, I don't know, thanks. And we got to do another BR, of course. And I'll just pretend that my name is Nick. Even though the first name there is, oh, it's not actually, we're good. Even though I'm sending the email to myself. That's nice. So I like that a lot. And now we have some onboarding done in Trello, basically automatically. Let's run through this from top to bottom. Just make sure that the email syntax looks good. No major issues there. Awesome. This is coming from the company that I'm working with. Hey, Peter, just wanted to extend a warm welcome. Oh, I guess Peter is the same name here. That looks really stupid. I need to change that. Pretend that Peter is the salesperson. Let's say commission salesperson. We'll say Peter is the salesperson, and then we will say that Sarah is the person that we just sold. That'll be a little bit better. That way this is dynamic. So maybe this is like, you know, how you keep track of the salespeople. And then I'm also going to show you guys a quick little Google Sheets automation after this as well, which I think will be valuable. For now, let's just run this flow through. Awesome. I've now shot myself an email. The email is pleasant and it says, welcome aboard, Sarah. Just wanted to extend a warm welcome. Peter ran me through left click, my company name, and I'm excited to build together. Below, you'll find a link to our project management board. Unlike other companies, we actually show you exactly how far along we are in every project that we do for you. Clients love this level of transparency, and anecdotally, I find it leads to healthier communication and expectations. Here's the link. Looking forward to kicking this off for you. I personally love this. This is fantastic. You can see that, you know, since I opened this in an incognito and the board is public, I actually have full visibility and access into where things are in the process. So very, very cool. And, you know, I think the sort of approach to agency management is much dearly needed a lot of the time. Of course, you know, you don't want to give up away too much of your power by doing something like this. Make sure that you be smart about it. You know, if a client sees that you're overdue or late or something, probably be a silly move. But yeah, you know, you can combine internal project management with this sort of externally facing view, and it's still pretty nice. And then, you know, if I'm doing something like this, I would always log the fact that I got a new client somewhere. So I would probably go into a Google Sheet somewhere, realistically. I'm just going to create a new one here. I'm going to call this, I don't know, sales dashboard or something like that. And then I would add a few columns here that I want to track. I'd add the date, I'd add the company name, I'd add the amount, I'd add the client first name, client last name. What other information did we have here? Commission salesperson. And then I would make all of this enter because I freaking love enter. And then I'm going to go back here to my Google Sheet and basically I'm going to choose this sales dashboard. And I'm just going to pretend that I'm logging this sale. You know, I don't show enough of this in the videos, and this is something that somebody specifically asked me to do. So I thought that I'd include it this time. So we're just going to pretend that, you know, we just did all of this, and now that we've done all this, we can log all of the company information. So company name, I'm going to log the amount. This is US dollars. I'm going to do my client first name, client last name, make it abundantly clear what every stage here means, and then we'll do commission salesperson. And I realize now I didn't put an email address, so we'll do email address down here too. And then I'll do email address here. You don't actually need to define the board before you set it up because the way that all of these fields work is this is just a column. So column F, column G, column H. Because column G didn't have a header in it, it's just being referred to as column G here. But even though I have gone through, added it now, I haven't refreshed this, which is why it still says G. Even though there was no header there, that's okay. The automation would still work regardless because it sort of knows to dump it on the second row after the rest of the headers on that line. So very simple payment completed, create Trello board and send email automation. As you see, this sort of onboarding thing is extremely simple, and it took me less than probably 15, maybe 20 minutes to put together. And that was while also walking you through sort of the Trello 101 here. You can take this same approach and you can make this as complicated as you want. You can add as many steps as you want. You could hook this up to like email newsletter software and have like a 30-step flow. You could realistically template out all of these boards so that they have extremely granular steps. You could, invite the person to 3 or 4 of these, maybe for different retainer verticals or maybe different service sub offerings that you are doing for them. I really mean it when I say that the potential here is limitless. And I hope that me walking you through the Trello flow and also just showing you what it might look like to run slightly more transparent of an operation gave you guys some ideas. Alrighty, that is it for this system. Let me just do one final thing. It's good practice to do all of your data entry before you do the email, so before the client-facing stuff. So I'm just going to close all of this, auto-align, save, run this puppy one last time. And then I'm going to export the blueprint so I have it. And then for sanity, we're going to go back here and just quadruple check that it looks good. And it looks fantastic. You can access our new super custom board. And if we go on the Google Sheet, we'll see that a new record was added. The record was bolded just because Google Sheets will always take the style of the previous row when new rows are being added automatically. But yeah, that is the system in a nutshell. Hope you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions about how to use Trello, whether simple ones like this or maybe more complex ones for use cases that I haven't explicitly covered, feel free to drop them down below. I'm more than happy to help. Thanks to everybody that's joined my community. We're about to cross 300 members. I feel like every time I record a video every single day, it's like, yesterday we were at 100, now we're at 200. Well, yesterday we were at 250, now we're at 300. The community growth, the value, and also the positive feedback that I've been getting from you guys from our most recent weekly office hour has been fantastic. So really appreciate everybody that signed up and looking forward to continuing to help you. Thanks so much for everything else. Do all that fun YouTube stuff, like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.